Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the 11th race of the season for the rapid-fired Pizza National Series, here live on the Flatout Racing Network as we get ready for 150 laps at the D-shaped mile-and-a-half Charlotte Motor Speedway. I'm Seth Cole, being joined alongside of Mark Zabetka. And Mark, I think when we were in the driver's meeting, the thing we really heard is, it doesn't matter if it's a short run or a long run, these drivers are going to be fighting the race car every single lap.
Yeah, definitely. Charlotte's one of the tougher tracks on the circuit that these guys go to today, so it'll be very interesting to see how they manage their tires and keep the car underneath them for all 150 laps.
On the pole position for tonight's race, it's going to be the number 99 out of BJ McLeod Motorsports of David Santini, three-time winner this season, although he's not the points leader. He's 21 points back from points leader Logan Helton, but a lot of momentum has been on the side of that car, and with the starting track position he's got, do we look at him maybe as one of the favorites?
Yeah, definitely. The 99 and the 8 car, both out of the same organization, seem to have a stranglehold on this series. The 99 has come off of 3 wins this season, and the 8 just leading the natural overall point standings. So they seem to know what they got out there, and they're pretty fast.
Logan Helton, who is starting the outside of the front row, he's actually still looking for his first win of the season. He's been very consistent, though. He's had 8 top 10s in his first 10 starts this year. And again, good starting track position here tonight. So we know that he's probably going to be someone that will try and get to victory lane also. But what are you expecting here for this one? Because we've got about, I think it's 22 drivers that are going to take the green flag. It's a long race. They're going to have to pace themselves. Do we see the typical Charlotte race where we go into a long green flag run, or based on the handling issues these drivers are going to have to deal with from what we heard in the drivers meeting, are we going to see quite a number of cautions splitting this race up?
I definitely think we are going to see a combination of the two because the track is just one of the toughest on the schedule, so they're definitely going to be fighting the thing, and I wouldn't be surprised to see some carnage. But you're also going to see some pretty long green flag runs because you can get pretty spread out here, and they might just not be around each other on track.
If we do manage to go green maybe for the entirety of this race, so we have been told that conceivably this could be a 2 pit stop race. You can stretch it to about max 55 laps. So these drivers would only have to be on pit road at least twice, but something tells me too that, when we heard on the short run, these drivers are going to be slipping and sliding around, and the expression we heard on the long run is you're going to be getting loose and plowing at the same time, which I can't imagine what that's like for a driver to have to deal with, but I think that we're going to see drivers have to kind of strategize if we get these cautions you're talking about of whether they want to keep their track position or they want to come to pit road, get that extra grip with 4 fresh tires.
Yeah, I mean, it all depends on how long into a run you are. If it's been a long green flag run, I'm going to expect everyone being down on pit road, but I also wouldn't count out a pretty medium-sized run towards the end and seeing some guys take 2, some take none, and some take all 4.
So as the field files behind the pace car, which will dive onto pit road this time, it will be in the hands of pole sitter David Santini and points leader Logan Helton to get us underway here. 150 laps as mentioned. The track conditions out there anywhere from 120 to 130 degrees, so they'll be slipping and sliding around early on until the tires start to get a little bit of grip. And we are racing here at Charlotte in race 11 of the rapid-fired Pizza National Series.
Yeah, here they go, going down into turn number 1. They seem to be giving each other a little bit of room as the front row are teammates.
Carson Bowers there in the 16 out of Colleague Racing, trying to break those teammates up. And look at the run that Logan Helton gets on the top side, down the back straightaway and here into 3 and 4. That's got to be something that maybe some of these drivers didn't expect, was the high line coming in this early on.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that gets any more rubber and if they start moving up the track as the race goes on. Right now, we're seeing the 8 car being able to work it, but I don't know how much longer that's going to last or if it's going to become the dominant line later in the race.
9 of Cody Jordan also up there trying to make something work, and looks like the outside line does prevail. Logan Helton going to clear the 99 of Santini, take the race lead. So Santini led the first lap, but his teammate Helton's going to lead the second one. Took the outside line, did not prevail as well, though, for Cody Jordan as he drifted back. Oh, goodness, he's going to go around, and he saves it. Down on the apron, we remain green. He had drifted back to, then nearly wrecked it over there in turn one, but a great save. We stay green, but with knowing how these drivers are slipping and sliding around and how it's going to be a tire conservation game, he definitely must have worn down those rear tires in that slide.
Yeah, that's definitely going to throw a wrench in the plans for the number 9 of Jordan, because he's going to be hurting, especially if they get a long run under their belts.
All right, they're off turn 4 as well. The JD Motorsports entry of Kevin Roy got into the wall. And we got a car, we got a couple of cars in trouble up ahead here. So it might have been the 7 that might have gotten up into the fence. I'm sorry, the 20 rather, of Tom Drayling. Saw Barry Stevens in the 78 and Dalton Williamson in the 61 take evasive maneuver to the inside.
We got the 32 car up on the wall as well. It looks like he recovered pretty quickly.
We were told that with the track conditions, these drivers would be slipping and sliding around, and we're definitely seeing that right now. As we move a little bit further up back towards the front of the field, and the battle for the lead is not gone. Santini continuing to hound Helton, trying to take that top spot back. You got a battle behind them between Carson Bowers and Joshua Gordon in that 93, who was the fastest in practice.
Yeah, I'm just going to assume that the 2 out front are just going to kind of log their laps. If one of them is like, hey, I'm faster than you, they're going to probably yield to the other driver, just because they're going to try to want to check out from these 2 here, the 16 and the 93, because they seem to have a lot of speed.
Bowers just got the wall off of 4, and you talk about pull away. The top 5 have pulled away from the rest of the field. There's the 2 of Chris Whitaker in 5th. But then a long ways back, over 2 seconds back, is where you find 6th place driver Evan Longaker. And I'm almost wondering if all these drivers maybe lost the top 5 with checking up, just in case that 9 of Jordan had spun around in front of them.
I'm sure that had a lot to play in there. And even the 2 of Whitaker seems to be losing his grip on the top 4 up there too. So even then, they're still pulling away.
Jacob Shorba right there as well in 7th, and Jeffrey Meyer also in the 38. You're looking there at 5th through the 7th position. Or I'm sorry, 6th rather through 8th. And then you drop back there to Barry Stevens, who's kind of leading this 3rd group, if you will. Tim Williams behind him, along with Dalton Williamson. A couple of drivers did not take the green to start this race, James Love and Vincent Arthur. So right now, both of them scored in the 21st and 22nd position, with 20 cars currently running. We saw Santini kind of reeling in, Helton trying to challenge him for the race lead. Looks like now he's kind of tapered off and has settled himself maybe 3-4 car lengths behind his teammate.
Yeah, it seems everyone's just trying to get in a groove right now. They don't want to push the issue too much, especially with how we saw a few guys come just so close to wrecking, but we're able to keep it under control. I imagine these guys are just going to start to take it easy now and just kind of get their bearings and make it to that first pit stop.
And back here at some of the drivers that struggled early on, and they're running back 17th and 18th right now. Kevin Roy in the 4, who got the wall off of turn 4, and there's the 9 of Cody Jordan, who had that great save down to turn 1. Chris Hansen here in the 18 car. He's filling in tonight for Tom Laneville.
Ooh, wow.
Ooh, and almost made some contact there.
They're getting real close to each other.
Them slipping and sliding around. I think they'd want to give each other a little bit more room than that, and Jordan looks like he may have just gotten into the wall there going into turn 1 as well. Mark, I mean, obviously you know this as a racer. One thing that these drivers want to do at these 1.5-mile tracks is they want to go almost as close to the wall as possible heading into the corner, so that way they can drive it in deep.
Yeah, they're trying to they're on the rapid edge up there, especially if you're running out on the high side. You got to keep it inches away from that wall to just really get into that corner hard as you can and carry as much speed off so you can try to be as fast as you can out there. just making up all those spots, it's real hard to keep it under control.
Good battle going on here in that third group, if you will. Barry Stevens, Tim Williams, Tom Draling all in this group, and also the 5 of Brandon Andrews. Race, as far as the projected playoffs look like, there are a couple of guys that really need good runs to get away from that cut line, and one of them is towards the back of this pack. Kevin Roy in the 4, he would be projected 11th of the 12 playoff drivers, so now, obviously, with brushing the wall, that lost him some ground, but is there something that somebody like him can do to try and conserve and maybe try and stretch it a little bit further than some of these other guys if we do eventually get to that first green flag pit stop?
I mean, it's definitely going to be a numbers game, especially if you're trying to outsmart the faster drivers. You're going to want to be able to conserve and back up your pace a little bit, but you don't want to back it up too much to where you're just losing too much time to where it's not going to make a difference for you. So that's going to be something that these guys that are going to try to like outsmart the leaders are going to have to keep in mind, is how far they can run their pace back before they need to start picking it up, or the leaders are just going to catch them and they'll end up a lap down, and it's just not going to help them in any way possible.
Brandon Andrews, the junior motorsports entry, just made a pass on Tom Draling, moving himself up to 11th, now hounding Tim Williams for a spot inside the top 10. Further up in front of them, though, you've got a side-by-side battle for 7th. That's Evan Longaker looking to the inside of the 38 of Jeffrey Meyer, 4th in the points. Jacob Shorba just up ahead of them. Shorba coming into this race, the defending winner from last week, taking the checkers at the Monster Mile of Dover International. So that locks him into the playoffs. And a number of the other former winners this season, like 3-time winner David Santini, Chris Whitaker in the 2, and also Chris Parkman in the 86. These guys now, they're going out there trying to win as many races as possible, because when the playoffs get put together, for every win that you have, you get 3 playoff points per win. So now it's just all about padding playoff points for those drivers.
Yeah, definitely, especially with Santini having 3 wins to everyone else's 1 that has a win this year. You're going to want to be trying to challenge that number as much as you can, or even better it so you can go into the playoffs ahead of Santini, because he's got a lot of speed out here.
With him having those 3 wins, a lot of wiggle room too in terms of types of strategies he might want to play off. I mean, when we come to Charlotte, as mentioned, a lot of times it turns into a fuel strategy race, a pit strategy race. So with him having those 3 wins in the bank, yeah, he's running second place right now, but he's got some other options now of maybe trying to short pit ahead of Logan Helton, try and stretch it further than Logan Helton, or even if we get a late race caution, of staying out on older tires and trying to see if he can pick up a 4th victory, because he already knows he's locked into the playoffs.
Yeah, he's definitely in the catbird seat when it comes to the postseason right now. He's going to be able to play around with whatever he wants to and just see what sticks. It'll be like throwing darts at a wall and seeing which one hits the bullseye and which one just doesn't make it, because at the end of the day, he's in the playoffs with 3 wins right now.
The fastest cars on track right now, working his way through the field, is last week's winner Jacob Shorba. Just made a pass on Carson Bowers, now cracks the top 5. And about maybe a corner ahead, you see that bright yellow number 2 of Chris Whitaker that he's trying to reel in. I'm looking in terms of the lap times right now, and he's not too far off of the race leader, anywhere from maybe a 10th to a 10th and a half off. But then again, he's had to pass a lot of cars to get up to where he is. Right now, Logan Helton's just out there trying to lay down some Q laps.
Yeah, that's all Logan can really do at this point, is just try to best everyone else on the field. He's just got to keep running down those fast times because he can't give up that lead.
20 laps in, and we do have another driver that has gone behind the wall. The 61 of Dalton Williamson is now out of the race, and not sure what happened to him, but that is huge, because Williamson came into this race 5th in the overall point standing, so tough break there for the driver out of Colleague Racing. Looking at lap times right now, and Logan Helton ran a 31.8. Santini a little bit faster with a 7.66, and Joshua Gordon here now in the 3rd position ran a 31.885. So right now, fastest car on track still consistently is Logan Helton, and that's showing because he's now opened the gap between himself and his teammate Santini by 0.8 of a second. The thing I'm looking at here too is when we initially started this race, these drivers were running lap times down in the low 30s, 30.3s to 30.6s. They've only been out there 23 laps, and we already see over a second and a half difference between the early pace and the current race pace, and that's including our leader Logan Helton. So that says to me, these drivers, we're talking about 55 laps is the furthest they can stretch it. If they try and maybe split this into 2 pit stops, 50 laps apiece, and try and maybe jump the gun there, those fresh tires, I think, are definitely going to come into play. And we just saw our race leader there even, Logan Helton. Yeah, he's out in front in clean air, but he was slideways coming off of turn 4.
Yeah, that's definitely, we're going to see these lap times just keep dropping and dropping. And I would not be surprised to see somebody go out there on a 3-stop strategy, because the tires are wearing as much as they usually do at Charlotte Motor Speedway. It wouldn't be surprising to see somebody try to add in an extra pit stop and make it up on pace.
One of the tougher things about this type of a racetrack too, with that D-shaped front straightaway, you have to turn the car a lot further to the left to get onto the front straightaway's first arm there, if you will, as opposed to somewhere like in Indianapolis where it's just a straight shot off of the final corner. And that's why a lot of drivers feel that looseness coming off of turn 4, like we saw our leader Logan Helton experience as he is about to catch some traffic. That is the 52 of Craig Hawkins, who is actually going to bring his Toyota Supra to pit road. I don't know if this is a scheduled pit stop for him or not. Something would tell me no. He was trying to probably stay out there before going a lap down. Now he's finally going to bring that machine to pit lane, and whatever adjustment he needs, or maybe it's damage repair, he's going to get that done now.
Yeah, definitely unscheduled stop for him. It's unfortunate, but sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do, and hopefully he'll be able to figure it out and cycle himself back onto a strategy that'll put him back into contention.
Nearly a spin off of turn 2 for Logan, or from Evan Loniger rather, as he was slideways off of the second corner, trying to battle there with Jacob Shorba. And behind them, though, if there's a place where a caution is going to take place, I kind of think it's back here in this group. 7th place on back to 12th. All right now, you could throw a blanket over them, currently being led by the 38 of Jeffrey Meyer.
Yeah, the tighter you run in a pack around here, the more treacherous it is for these drivers. Sometimes you just want to be able to pull away from everyone so you're out of the bird's nest, if you will, but it's going to be pretty treacherous if these guys keep running this close to each other.
Especially with the fact that, all running in a pack here, the cars, if it's feeling tight right now, it's going to feel even tighter when you're in somebody's draft going into the corner. So you'd be tight going in through the center, and we've seen a lot of drivers, including drivers up at the front, experience that sensation loose off. So it's a terrible combination these drivers are having to fight here as we get longer and longer into this run.
Yeah, that's another thing, is the dirty air out there. Some of these guys are probably just getting tighter and tighter, and as the tires wear, it's just probably getting close to undrivable out there. So we might be seeing some of these guys towards the back of the pack, possibly, or even anywhere in the pack, really. There could be a caution once we get going close to pit stops, just because they can't hold on to it any longer.
We saw a pass for 7th, Tim Williams, moving by Jeffrey Meyer, who now falls back into the clutches of Tom Drayling. Tim Williams is one of 5 drivers that has run every event this season so far. However, he's only got one top 5, and that one top 5 was his only top 10 so far this year. So marching his way up there towards the front, we'll see if he can finish up in the top 5 for the second time here this season.
Yeah, he's definitely got a no-give-up attitude out there, just trying to keep plugging away no matter how good or bad his luck is. Hopefully he can get his season turned around here.
Don't look now, but David Santini might have been holding back, saving a little bit. He has caught and easily passes Logan Helton for the race lead. I don't know if maybe Helton had a little bit of an issue that slowed his momentum or something, because it was about an 0.8 of a second gap that all of a sudden in the span of a lap turned into a 1/10 of a second, and now we've got a new race leader.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was saving his stuff from the start. He's probably going to start pushing here, especially the closer we get to pit stops, to try to gain an advantage before the next run he puts on them tires.
It looks like the 52 of Craig Hawkins has taken his car behind the wall. The car you saw just behind the two race leaders is actually Greg Newsom in the 39, who also was just on pit lane a couple of laps ago. He's currently one lap down, going to try and earn his lap back the hard way. And you can see right here just the difference of straightaway speed between fresh tires and old tires.
Yeah, it's insane the difference that new tires makes at this track. You were just flying around some of these guys that have been putting you lap down all day.
In these drivers here, I mean, Santini was saving his stuff. He just ran a 32.4, whereas Greg Newsom was a full second faster with a 31.5. So he is going to easily pass both of these drivers. The only thing is, though, we know that he'll have to make at least 2 more pit stops before this race is over to be able to reach the conclusion. But you brought up, Mark, about the fact of maybe trying to plan for a 3-stop strategy. We know there's some drivers that are going to plan for 2, but based off of what we've seen with the fall off, I think you're right. I think that 3-stop would be the best way to go, especially for these guys up at the front.
It's definitely something that you're going to want to try in the back, especially somebody like Newsom, who he's 7 points below the cut line. He's got to try something different. He can't just sit there and ride.
He's only got 1 top 10 so far this season. Does Newsom in that RSS Racing entry. As you mentioned, 12th in the point standings. Now, he does have a little bit of breathing room currently with the fact that Tyler White is not in tonight's race, but he does have Roger Gregory and Brandon Andrews that he has to worry about, who are both within striking vicinity of him tonight if they were to win this evening's event. Right now, Gregory is in 15th, and I believe Andrews is currently just inside the top 10 in that 10th position.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be something to keep an eye on, is how Newsom's race goes on a 3-stopper. I'm definitely interested to see how his race plays out, if it works in his favor towards the end or if it ends up biting him.
Mentioned the fact that Tyler White is not in tonight's race. Tom Draling is actually filling in the 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing this evening. Having a solid outing in that 8th position, not too far behind his teammate this evening, Tim Williams. And behind them, got a brewing battle for 9th place. Brandon Andrews stalking Barry Stevens for that 9th position. The two of them separated by about 3 car lengths, and we're starting to see a little bit of cloud cover creeping in here to Charlotte Motor Speedway. That's probably going to help these drivers a little bit with some extra grip, but would have to be overcast for quite a while, I think, for the track to get cooled down enough.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be something to keep an eye out on, is how much cooler it makes the track and how that affects the tire fall off. If these guys are stop sliding around as much, and if the tires keep a little bit more life in them longer, or if the clouds just kind of roll on past the track and it stays heated up.
All right, so Mark, you talked about a possible 3-stop for some of these guys. What would you, if you were doing a 3-stop strategy, what would be your target lap here for your first round of pit stops?
Honestly, it depends on who the driver is for me to even send someone out onto a 3-stopper. If I was someone like Santini, I would definitely be someone to try a 3-stopper. But if it was a driver that just doesn't have that much pace, even then, that's a time where you'd want to try it just to see if you can outsmart them on, a little bit of strategy game. But it depends on how far off you are on pace, I guess, to see who would be out there. Like, if you're somewhere in, like, the 7th to 12th area right now, I would definitely be considering it. But anywhere beyond that, it's going to be pushing the issue of hurting you more than helping you.
Well, I think that Santini might have been listening to what you were saying, because as soon as you mentioned him, he was on pit road. And then a lap later, Joshua Gordon, Logan Helton, and Chris Whitaker all hit the pit lane. We've got more drivers now on pit road, including Cody Jordan in the 9, Carson Bowers in the 16, and Kevin Roy in the 4. So the round of pit stops begin as Shorba and Barry Stevens are going to hit pit road this lap.
It looks like not very many people are trying to split this race into a two-stop strategy. They definitely want to be on those fresh tires as soon as possible, so it's going to be something to keep an eye on is who does end up doing splitting the race into two stops.
You see right here, our current race leader, Evan Lonecker, going to have to give up ground to both the 8 and the 99 of Helton and Santini, who were on pit road. They just now unlapped themselves. And so I think it will just be a matter of time before we see some of these other guys on pit road. Roger Gregory just now hitting pit lane, so we're waiting for 5 drivers, including race leader in the 10 of Lonecker, to come to pit road. And our first round of pit stops will have been complete at Charlotte. Looks like the 10, well, I thought he might be indicating coming to pit road. Not yet. He's actually got a challenge right behind him. Tim Williams trying to get himself a lap-led bonus point.
Another thing to keep an eye on would be if we are to see a caution here in the next few laps before this completely cycles out, because that'll trap a lot of fast cars a lap down.
Absolutely would. And when you've got the fact that both Helton and Santini unlapped themselves, we know they probably wouldn't come to pit road, so those drivers that were trapped a lap down would not get the option of a wave around.
Oh yeah, that would definitely throw a wrench into the entire outlook of this race for any of the drivers.
Lead change there as Tim Williams is going to take the top position away from Evan Lonecker. More importantly, the race within the race right now, Logan Helton did win the battle off of pit road from David Santini. As soon as I say that, though, Santini's actually going to try and pass him. So this is technically the battle for the race lead when the 5 drivers, Williams, Lonecker, Drayling, Andrews, and Hansen, eventually come to pit road to complete our first round of green flag pit stops. Pit road 1 lap sooner than Helton, so we'll have to see if Helton try and save a little bit here and see if he gets an advantage with those 1 lap fresher tires.
I really don't think a lap is going to be that much of an advantage unless he does really go out there and save, but the tire wear is probably just going to end up equaling out, so if I was Helton, I would start pushing as soon as possible to try to reel him in rather than try to save and hope that that 1 lap makes a difference.
These drivers were all on pit road that have pitted so far, somewhere between laps 40 to 43. So if they ended up pitting that early, the furthest they'd be able to go now would be somewhere in the vicinity of nearing 100 laps. If they're thinking about pitting every 40 laps, we may be looking at this thing as maybe them having to come to pit road at least 2 more times, which would fit into your strategy there. But as we get longer into the race and these drivers start to feel more of what the car's like on the longer run, we may have somebody that might decide to stretch it as far as possible and maybe make it on just 1 more pit stop.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see who decides to back it down and try to see how far they're able to make it, or who's just trying to go all out on pace and go for that extra stop or take it away. It's definitely going to be something that I'm excited to see how this race plays out.
We're looking here at Tim Williams, who continues to show the way. He's been out there for 47 laps. Like strategy that definitely could play out into his favor. The thing we have to look at is the time that he is losing to David Santini, Logan Helton, Josh Gordon, and Chris Whitaker, who have all unlapped themselves here during this run, and they've all been to pit road. The time that he's losing out to them is time that I don't really think he's going to be able to gain back if he, stays out after the next round of pit stops and everybody comes to pit road. He's going to have to hope it equals out, but just based on the fall off in the lap times we've seen between old tires and fresh tires, I don't see how he can gain that back.
Yeah, for a lot of these guys, it's just they're committed at this point to splitting it into 2, and they're honestly, my way, especially with the pace that Santini and Helton have shown early on in these races, they're going to just need a caution if they want to be able to fight against them. Unless this 2-stop strategy ends up helping them, I really think the only way of fighting for this is a caution.
Tim Williams on pit road now. You know what I found interesting was that 2 guys that are down there around that cut line in the playoffs were 2 of the 5 that stayed out. Tim Williams, one of them. He's 11th in the points coming to this one, and also Brandon Andrews in the 5, who's currently 16th in points. So maybe looking at Charlotte as a Hail Mary shot, trying to do the 2-stop strategy and try and get themselves a fuel strategy, a pit strategy win to lock themselves into the playoffs coming into this race in a rather critical spot.
Yeah, I mean, no better time than the present for any of these guys, especially if they're on the latter half of the chase grid. If they can get a win, that'll definitely put them in a great position going into the playoffs. Take a lot of pressure off of them for the rest of the season.
At the 10 of Evan Loneker on pit road, that turns the race lead over to fill-in driver Tom Drayling. He's going to come to pit lane this time. Brandon Andrews going to stay out here and get himself a lap lead. Only currently sits about maybe 7 seconds, and now make it 4.5 seconds between himself and second place, which is now David Santini. So Santini, if Andrews doesn't come to pit road this lap, which it looks like he may be indicating he is, it wouldn't be long before Santini would actually catch up to him himself and pass him for that race lead.
Yeah, I can't imagine staying out as long as he has. Oh, as he doesn't pull off on a pit road this lap. That's not a very bold strategy, but if he ends up a lap down, that's only going to hurt him more than it's helping him being out this long.
I agree. As you can see, he's having difficulty even holding the bottom there on those older tires. And you'll see coming off of turn 2 right there, that white and green machine, that is second place, David Santini, along with third place, Logan Helton. They are closing in quick on Andrews, as we'll see if Andrews might actually come to pit road this time, and he will. So officially taking the lead back over is going to be David Santini in the 99. And now this makes it a little bit more interesting, Mark, because of the fact that when we saw the first run before these two drivers came to pit road, Santini spent most of that run in second place. So he had the option of being able to conserve, save his tires, and made a charge there in the latter portions of that long run. Now he's the race leader. He's the one being pressured. He doesn't have the option of trying to save his stuff.
Well, if he has the more pace in his car, he can also kind of play some mind games and possibly slow down the pace of the race in general and possibly have everyone end up in terms saving their tires unless somebody decides to charge up through the field. But if he's keeps the pace at a more of a minimum than he was on the last run, we might see Logan just not pushing as much as he had been, and the pace just for the lead slows down just a touch, not a whole lot, but enough to where both of them end up saving their tires.
There's a couple of drivers that after this round of pit stops, they definitely gained on pit road. One of them is Jacob Shorba. He's now up into the top 5 in the 5th position. Harry Stevens has now moved up to 6th. And how about the 12 of Roger Gregory, who spent a good portion of that last run running back around the 12th, 13th position. He's now up to the 7th spot in that number 12 car, and John Jones as well, who was one of the early ones to pit road there in that 8th spot. So we're definitely seeing that coming to pit road, getting those fresh tires, definitely paid dividends and gained a lot of drivers of multiple spots on the track.
It looks like Greg Newsom has found his way back to pit road. I don't think...
Oh, we had a spinner. Sorry to cut you off. We had a spin in the middle of 1 and 2. He saved it, however, but the hood is gone on the 15 of John Jones. No caution, we remain green.
Wow, that was definitely a close one. But yeah, as I was saying about Newsom, I don't know what strategy he's playing onto right now, but he's revisited pit road, and I wonder if he had any problems or possible damage on his car that he had to come to pit road. Looks like he's going to need a caution.
He was off the sequence of those guys. He had come to pit road a lot earlier. I think he was on pit road around lap 20. And so he was able to stretch it a little bit further than everybody else. So this might have actually been, I think, a regularly scheduled stop for him, but he's way off pit sequence from everybody else, and I don't really know how that's going to pan out for him, as Logan Helton has taken the race lead back away from David Santini. These two just continue to kind of play that cat and mouse game right now, but we're still continuing to see Helton get loose off of 4.
Yeah, I'm sure Helton's just trying to do what he can and try to set the pace, because he probably knows that Santini is saving his stuff, and if he can get somewhat of a gap on him, he's going to try to make him use his stuff up to have to catch him before they can start battling for the lead, rather than him just lose to him on pace.
There you see the 10 of Evan Loneker going to make a move to the inside of race leader Helton. This will put him back on the lead lap and has us currently with 8 drivers scored on the lead lap now. Roger Gregory about to actually get caught and put a lap down. That would be a position for Loneker and would actually be a car that would be lapped by race leader Logan Helton if he does catch him and pass him. Gregory's been out there for 17 laps. He's got 3 lap fresher tires than Helton, but apparently his lack of track position has put him in this situation.
Yeah, that's good thing for Loneker, because now his strategy of being on a 2-stop is still somewhat alive, I would say. He's definitely going to have to make up some pace on these leaders if he wants to be able to shuffle out, but we can only find out with time as this next run just goes on.
Those other drivers that tried the longer run there before coming to pit road where they're currently running, Tom Drayling currently is in 9th. He is a lap down. Brandon Andrews a lap down in 12th. Tim Williams a lap down in the 13th position. And to your point, really the only one that has seemed to work out in favor of currently would be Evan Loneker, currently on the lead lap now in that 7th position. And he is running lap times anywhere from 0.4 to half a second faster than race leader Helton. So, as you said, just the amount of distance he can put between himself and Helton here before we get to this next round of pit stops is really going to be the key.
Yeah, at this point, he's just got to keep running off fast laps until he gets that good juice knocked out of the tires before he has to come back to pit road. He just got to hold on for dear life now since he's committed to that strategy.
The field after the green flag pit stops has really spread out. And right now we don't have that much of battling going on the track for position. Back here you've got Brandon Andrews, and you can see the white and green machine back there of Tim Williams is trying to reel him in. That would be a battle for 11th if that starts to close up. And I'm not really sure really even how the hood came off of John Jones when he had that contact earlier on between himself and I think it was Barry Stevens. But he's still continuing on in the 10th position, 1 lap down, so apparently that hood damage hasn't really seemed to affect him that badly.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to affect the aerodynamics of the car a little bit, but all in all, the car is still being able to keep up a little bit of pace, so that's good that he's able to stay out there.
And here comes Brandon Andrews, who's going to pass him for position. Andrews has 13 lap fresher tires, so there's no question of why he blew by for that spot. And right now what he's trying to do is get up there to the race leaders and unlap himself so he would be back on the lead lap should we end up getting a caution. So far, though, we've run clean and green. We're nearing the halfway point. We've had 1 round of green flag pit stops, and we're about halfway to getting to that 2nd round of green flag pit stops here for a number of our race leaders.
Yeah, I'm definitely impressed by the amount of, or I guess the lack there of cautions out here. These guys have been able to hold on to the cars pretty well, and they're just slipping and sliding all over this track.
See there, Helton's been able to gap himself again from Santini. About 1.2 seconds the difference, but we kind of get the feeling that when we get a little bit further into this run, nearing when those pit stops take place, maybe Santini's been saving something and he'll make another charge. Joshua Gordon right now in the 3rd position, but he's almost a full straightaway behind the top 2 in that number 93. But a good run here for Joshua Gordon, who comes into this race 20th in the point stands. I mean, this is a run that he really needed to have. He's only made 6 of the 10 starts this season. He does have 1 top 5 and 3 top 10s, but with the limited number of starts he's made, he hasn't been able to accumulate a lot of points. And so this is actually a really well-needed run for this 93 car.
Yeah, this could be a huge race for him. Like, he could end up, if he could end up with a win out here, that would be huge for that group because that would elevate them right into the playoffs. And even just a good top 5 will just carry some momentum to possibly win another race later down the road.
Chris Whitaker also has been in the top 5 all night long, solidly in the 4th position. Comes into this race second in the points, 14 points behind Logan Helton. Obviously, with Helton out in front, that's not what Whitaker wants to see, but another guy that we could maybe see, like Joshua Gordon, that could play some strategy late and try and snag away a win here tonight at Charlotte also.
I'm honestly surprised at the gap that Santini lets Helton put on him when he's saving his stuff. I would imagine that he would at least like to keep him within a second of him, but I guess he doesn't seem to really mind how much of a gap Helton puts on him. He's just he knows what he has to do to keep those tires underneath him, and it seems to be working out for him, so I'm not gonna criticize him anymore on that.
Yeah, that gap has opened up almost nearing 2 seconds now as Carson Bowers in the 16 had a near moment there around Jacob Shorba. Carson's currently 2 laps down, almost looped it around through 3 and 4, and I'm not certain if this is a regularly scheduled stop or not. If it is, it's somewhat early. He'd only been out there 28 laps on his set of tires.
It's an interesting strategy to be playing right now, but I don't know. Maybe he might have an issue going on that he has to tend to on the car.
This drops him down to 18th, last car running. 20 cars took the green to start this race. 18 are still out there on track. Currently, only 8 of them on the lead lap. The last of those, Tom Drayling in the 20. Visibly right there, maybe about 3/4 of a straightaway from Helton back to Santini. That equals out to 2 seconds exactly. Best battle on the track right now would be between a couple of drivers that are not on the lead lap. However, they are battling for that 7th position. Evan Longaker is looking in his rearview mirror, and that 20 of Tom Drayling's getting a little bit closer to him. These two both came to pit road around the same time. Drayling 1 lap later than Longaker, but both of them are back in the lead lap. They're 2 of the guys that we are looking at possibly to be trying to make this on just 1 more pit stop.
Yeah, we're definitely getting closer and closer to seeing some of those guys that pitted early on in the race coming back down pit road. And even so, we're closing in on the guys that are going to have the 2-stop strategy in the race. So pit window seems to be about to be wide open here, and this is going to play out pretty nicely for these guys.
Brandon Andrews proved that you can go about 57 laps on fuel if you save enough. That's how long he stayed out. So we'll see how long guys like Longaker and Drayling decide to actually stay out. They came to pit road back on lap 50 and 51. So we don't really expect to see them until probably around lap 100, trying to split this into thirds. We got a spin on the back straightaway, and that's going to bring out the caution. That was the 9 of Cody Jordan. So this changes up everything in terms of fuel strategy.
Oh yeah, this is going to be a huge just wrench in everyone's plans right now. As we see just numerous cars a lap down, and pit strategy is all out the window right now.
That's a great point, too, with the fact we have so many cars a lap down. I think that Andrews in the 5 will end up being the recipient of the free pass, and more than likely, with us being out there on this run, anywhere from 20 to 35 laps, respectively, on whichever lap these drivers decided to pit, I don't think anybody on that old of tires is going to be able to take a wave around, at least under this caution.
Yeah, it definitely not a good idea to take the wave around, especially this close to the pit window for all of these guys. That'd just be a death sentence unless another caution came out right away, but I would not bank on that the way this race is run.
You saw what happened to Cody Jordan there off of turn 2. Looks like the car wanted to come around on him. He overcorrects it, or corrects too much into the outside wall and spins it around. He's had a couple of near misses here tonight, almost looped it around in the first few laps of this race, as we're going to go on board with him and see just what he saw from the cockpit of that Bass Pro Shop Chevrolet. You can see right there, you can feel the car getting loose. He tries to save it, couldn't do it. Didn't have the rear tire grip to be able to straighten that car back out. And he spun out right in front of a couple of machines, which he was up in the racing line too, so no choice but the officials to throw the caution there. And this right at the halfway point too. So what does this do in terms of those guys now that we're going to try and make it on 2 stops? Because we were nearing about when drivers that were looking for the 3-stop strategy were going to come to pit road. So nothing really has changed for them. But does that mean now these guys that were looking at 2 stops, they are forced now to have to think of a 3-stop strategy?
I would definitely say that is going to be the case here because at this point, honestly, for some of these guys that it worked out for, like Loneker and I believe Tom Drayling were on that strategy. Oh, and Brandon Andrews seems to have cycled out. They're going to be able to kind of get bailed out in a sense, I guess. Because some of them
Another
were.
thing too that I think we're going to see is guys like Gordon, Whitaker, and Shorba, who looked like they had good long run cars. Now they're going to be back on the bumpers of Santini and Helton. They're not going to have the huge gaps to have to try and overcome.
Yeah, this could be huge for Josh Gordon as he's looking for a win right now, and he'll be able to put himself up against these guys on the restart rather than have to try to reel them in from behind.
You brought up the fact of that we probably might not see another caution here, at least for a while, just based on what we saw in the first half of this race. The only thing I would wonder, though, is with the fact that guys like Gordon, like Whitaker or Shorba, they were anywhere from 8 to 12 seconds back from the top 2. Now they're all bunched back up again. This is their best opportunity to be able to pick up some positions with everyone lined up on a restart. They may be a little bit more aggressive here on this restart than they were back at the initial start of the race.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see this next restart because I see some of these guys, like you were saying, be more aggressive on the restart, especially someone like Joshua Gordon and even Jacob Shorba, who seem to have some really fast cars out there. Put it to guys like Santini and Helen and possibly try to take over the lead and pace of this race.
So 18 cars are still in this event. We should be getting the 1 to green signal this next time around. Brandon Andrews was indeed the recipient of the free pass, so 9 drivers will be on the lead lap when we eventually go back green heading into the second half of this race. David Santini's the leader, Logan Helton in second. Joshua Gordon lines up third with Chris Whitaker and Jacob Shorba completing the top 5. Tom Drayling in 6th, Evan Longacre in 7th. 8th is going to be Barry Stevens, and Andrews will line up in 9th. First car 1 lap down that would love to see another quick caution is 10th place Tim Williams. Also a lap down is Chris Hansen in 11th, Kevin Roy in 12th, Roger Gregory 13th, John Jones in 14th. Be interesting to see if they were able to get that car repaired there after he stayed out with his hood completely gone. And Cody Jordan, who spun to bring out the caution, also a lap down in 15th. We've got 3 cars that are 2 laps down, including 4th in the standings, Jeffrey Meyer. He's currently in 16th, Greg Newsom currently 17th, and Carson Bowers in the 18th position. And there's a couple of guys there that are down there, not only Meyer, who's 4th in points, but also Carson Bowers, 8th in the standings. Not the runs that either of them were looking for here tonight, especially knowing that a bad run could put them down near that cutoff line for the playoffs. Of course, the season is still young as well. This is only the 11th race of the year in a 33 race schedule. So even if they do have a bad run here tonight, plenty of races to be able to bounce back from, including next week when these drivers will be heading to the road course of Mid-Ohio. So I don't know if there's any road course ringers, if you will, in this field, but of course they will have had that date circled on their calendar as a possible place to be able to pick up a win and solidify themselves in the playoffs.
Yeah, that'll be a huge wrench in the championship format here if somebody that's below the cut line can get a win and put themselves into the playoffs.
Green flag back in the air with 72 laps to go. David Santini going to try on those fresh tires to pull away from Logan Helton. But behind them, you got a three-way battle for third. Josh Gordon, Chris Whitaker, and Jacob Shorba in the one.
Yeah, it looks like Shorba's not trying to waste any time making up some spots here as he puts a huge dent in that gap between him and the two of Whitaker. He's just got to try to figure out the best and fastest way around him as he's trying the bottom, the top, back to the bottom, back to the top.
Based off what we saw there the first half of this race, I honestly think that Jacob Shorba could have been up in the top 3 for a majority of that first half, just based off his short run and long run speed lap times, but he didn't qualify well, so he had to cut his way up through the field to where he currently is. And now we'll see with him all bunched up in the top 4, right within striking distance, if he'll be able to fight his way up to the lead. And here comes Tom Draling in that 20
Looks
car.
like we have another yellow out there on the track.
You are correct. Caution is out, and it's for the 4 of Kevin Roy off of turn 4.
Yep, it looks like he got some help from the 15, but and the 9 was also involved in it. Yeah, he was already working his way to losing the car before he got a little bit more help from the 15.
John Jones was inside, and oh wow, yeah. Nowhere also for the 9 of Cody Jordan to go. The whole front of Pro Shop Chevrolet is gone, and a lot of damage there on the Flex Seal Chevrolet as well of Kevin Roy, 9th in the points coming to this race. Right now, that's going to help will be Tim Williams in the 19. He was the first car 1 lap down, so this will put him back on the lead lap.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be helpful for some of those guys a lap down. Just even if they're not getting the wave around, it'll put one less guy a lap down and help them out if there is another yellow, since it seems that we're not going to, at least we did not get a long run there, and you know what they say about cautions, they breed more cautions.
As we were on board there with Kevin Roy in the 4, you could clearly see that the grooves of the racetrack, you've kind of got those little seams there in the corner, and with the hot track conditions and the slick track conditions we have here today, is there any way that those seams are going to come into play with these drivers getting loose through the corners?
Well, it's definitely not somewhere where you're going to want to try to run on in the corners, because that'll just send the car right around. But yeah, they're definitely going to play an effect here in this race, because it's going to really make these cars slide.
So we even here on this caution coming out about 6 laps after our first caution of the day, had some strategy play out. A couple of drivers decided to come to pit road, including the 93 of Joshua Gordon, the 7 of Tom Draling, and the 5 of Brandon Andrews. So, you mentioned that you didn't think that, I think it was 3-lap tires was really that different as opposed to fresh tires. Is there a difference, do you think, in terms of speed from fresh tires to 6-lap old tires?
I think you got to start getting into the double digits before the difference is going to make anything there, because the wear, it's just going to eventually equal out as the run goes on. I mean, maybe not necessarily, it depends on how long the run is, but if it's a shorter run, yes, I would say 6-lap fresher tires are going to be an advantage, or even 3-lap fresher tires. Like, if it's coming down to the end of the race and somebody takes fresh tires and somebody was stayed out, but they had just taken them a few laps before, that might be a difference. But if we get another long green flag run, you're going to need to be in the double digits before the difference is going to be anything huge.
When that caution came out at the midway point, it was fairly certain that everyone was going to be able to make it on fuel. Now with this second caution coming out, it's definitely a positive these drivers are now going to be able to make it on fuel on one more pit stop. The window's kind of open now as well as to when they want to make that pit stop, because if we go back green on lap 85, we're going to be going green in the vicinity of 65 laps to go, knowing that these drivers can stretch it to about 55 laps. I mean, these guys have a choice of maybe pitting 20 laps into this run or stretching it out to that 50-55 lap.
Yeah, it'll be something I want to keep an eye on is to see who's going to try to pit early and who's going to try to pit later, or if we get another caution to change the game again.
In 65 laps, we had a lot of our leaders on that first round of pit stops come in around lap 40. So, do you think you might maybe come in maybe lap 30, 32, split this last run in half? All planning, that is, that there won't be a caution from now till then.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to make a commitment to a specific strategy here, especially one that requires the foresight of if there's going to be another caution or not, because that's just going to be a huge risk that you're going to have to gamble with, but it might end up paying off. If I'm someone like Santini here, anything's on the table for me.
And if you are Santini, I mean, do you want to be the one that formulates the strategy and executes it regardless of what other people do? Or do you want to be the one that waits and sees what everybody else does and then make your plans accordingly?
He seems to not be someone that really is worried about the rest of the field, but only what he knows is right, as we saw with him saving his tires and just letting his teammate go. So I would definitely say he'd be more of a trendsetter than a follower here.
As we set them up here to go green, it's going to be Santini, the three-time winner, alongside of alongside of Logan Helton. This was the front row for the start of this race. Helton, the points leader. Then second in points, Chris Whitaker lines up alongside of last week's winner, Jacob Shorba, in the one machine. And then Evan Loneker going to complete the top five as the green flag is back in the air. 66 laps to go here at Charlotte.
As we see Santini get a lead and Whitaker take over second place from Helton. That looks like Whitaker's really shot himself out of a cannon right there on the restart as he's trying to possibly challenge Santini for the lead here.
Yeah, he timed it perfectly. As soon as Santini went, Whitaker went. He's trying to find a way here around the 99, who I don't think is going to give up the inside. So if Whitaker's going to make the pass, he might have to do it around the outside, and he lost a little momentum. Here comes Helton back to the bottom for second place.
Yeah, it looks like that speed might have been a little too good to be true for Whitaker there as he keeps the 8 car real low onto the apron there. He almost lost it underneath him.
Now he's going to slot into the third position. Will Whitaker in front of Jacob Shorba. They're side by side further back though. And we got a car down on the apron. I don't know if that I think might have been the 4 of Kevin Roy trying to get out of the way of everybody, but we all keep it straight. We all keep it green. Back up here again, though. That battle continues on for the second position between Helton, Whitaker, and Shorba.
It looks like Evan Loneker is starting to make some headway. As I said, that caution could have potentially bailed him out here as he's really showing his actual true pace out on the track, as he's actually being overtaken right now by Joshua Gordon.
Gordon was one of 3 drivers that were on the lead lap that decided to come to pit road there under that caution. We're starting to see him fight his way back up to the front as third place battle was side by side for a moment. Whitaker holds up Shorba for the time being, but that 93 car looks like he may be the fastest car on the track right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's shown speed all day, and I think he's ready to really give these guys a run for their money.
Drailing going to move by Barry Stevens, so move the 20 up to the 7th position. Stevens will fall back to 8th. Barry Stevens has only made 3 starts this year, 23rd in the points coming into this race. And a solid outing for him in that BJ McLeod Motorsports entry, currently in that 8th position. Brandon Andrews there in 9th, and Tim Williams got the free pass because, see, he's way back here. The reason he's way back here is when you get the lucky dog, you restart not only behind the lead cars, but all the lap machines. So he was at the very tail end of the field, which is why he's currently scored over 5 seconds behind race leader Dave Santini.
Yeah, that's definitely got to hurt for Williams there, as he's got to make up some lost time there that he had from the restart.
And right now he's a lap down, but how about the comeback for Cody Jordan, who almost spun it around in the first few laps of this race, but saved it. Went a lap down early, brought out our first caution of the day around halfway. Right now, if we were to get a yellow, he would be in the free pass position, currently in the 11th spot.
Yeah, I mean, that car is pretty mangled up, but he's still just keeping it out there and trying to gain as many points as he can, as he's one of the guys just in striking distance there below the cut line.
Seen some side-by-side racing here today, but a lot of it is settled out very quickly. And everybody here for the top 5 all trying to bottom feed as best they can, keep it down against that blue line. So you got to think it's only a matter of time before we see someone try and make that second groove work. And remember early on, I don't know if it was that Santini was kind of backing his pace off a little bit or what, but Logan Helton actually made the pass for the lead back on the second lap of this race around the outside line.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who's going to be the first guy to really start painting that top side, if you will. Because if there's any extra grip up there, these guys are going to try to find it as soon as possible. And I feel like the way this race is going, they're just going to be trying anything they can, especially someone like Whitaker or Shorba, who seem to have a lot of speed in their cars that just can't seem to find that extra grip that they need to get around these guys.
Right now, those two are in a battle for third, and Joshua Gordon there as well. And as these guys continue to battle amongst themselves, the 20 of Tom Drayling starting to reel them in, so we could have a 4-man fight for that third position. As Whitaker now starts to open up a little bit of daylight between himself and Shorba, who got awfully loose there going into turn 1, had to lift through the center of the corner and almost got run over by the 93.
Yeah, that was a close call for both of those guys out there. That could have been very treacherous to see them end their race like that.
A little further back behind Drayling, there's Evan Loneker currently in that 7th position. Now, we actually do have some battles going on as well that are drivers a lap down, but this, I think, is an important one between John Jones and Kevin Roy. Both 1 lap down, a battle for 14th place, because Kevin Roy comes into this race 9th in the point standings, and he's got to pick up every position possible, whether it be a lap machine in front of him or not, because every point matters, especially early on in the season. You can end up missing out on the playoffs by 1 or 2 points, and you can look back at a race like this and say, boy, if I had just gotten that guy on that 1 lap, that'd have been 1 point that probably would have helped me be able to get into the playoffs. So in this regular season, every point matters.
Especially with Tim Williams running on the lead lap ahead of him by a few spots here. It's not good for Kevin Roy out there.
And also Brandon Andrews also on the lead lap, who is behind him in the standings right now in that 8th position, as looks like Joshua Gordon made quick work of Jacob Shorba, finally moving up into that 4th spot. Now going to try and pass Chris Whitaker. And I was kind of wondering if we would see what would happen with him coming to pit road, if that strategy was going to play out in his favor, but I almost feel like he has spent too long out here trying to pass both Shorba and Whitaker that he may not have enough left as far as tire grip if he does get up there to Logan Helton or David Santini.
Yeah, I think he definitely used up a little bit more than he wanted to behind those guys, but it just didn't seem he had the right path to get around them. So now if he starts closing this gap, he might be able to get back to them, but I don't know if he's going to have enough to pass them. I'm surprised he hasn't started to try maybe possibly running the up top on the track or not, but he seems to be fastest painting that blue line around the track, so I guess he's going to do what he needs to do to be as fast as he can.
Drayling going to make a pass there on Chris Whitaker, doing a great job here tonight as a fill-in driver for Tom Laneville. I'm sorry, he's actually filling in for Tyler White. I don't know exactly how the system is for a fill-in driver, how many points they can gain for the driver that they're filling in for, but with Tyler White coming into this race just outside of the playoff grid, this is certainly going to be a good points day for that 20 team, as Drayling right now looks like he could be one of the faster cars on the long run. So if we see this thing go green to the end, he's a driver that also was one of those that was looking like he was going to be a 2-stop driver. We'll have to see if maybe he can, as a fill-in driver, snatch a win away from a lot of these full-time guys. back up at the front. The gap remains about 0.3 of a second between Santini and Logan Helton. Very interesting here, too, that, we saw earlier on when Santini was leading the way, he would let Helton reel him in, let him pass him, and then he would charge back up to him. That hasn't really been the case here on this run. Santini has not let Helton really reel him in at any point in time. So obviously, at the later the race goes, the differing the strategy becomes.
Yeah, it looks like we have a battle for the lucky dog if there was to be a caution. Cody Jordan and Chris Hansen seem to be fighting it out there for that 11th position, first car lap down.
They do. Chris Hansen filling in tonight for Tom Laneville. Right now in that 11th spot, and there's Jordan, who brought out the first caution of the evening. To your point, yeah, it's amazing that thing is still running, as he's actually been involved in both of our cautions so far here tonight. Is a battle for that free pass position should we get a caution, but we're also closing in, Mark, on the potentiality of that final green flag pit stop for these drivers. They've been out there for 27 laps. And my assumption is we're probably, if they plan on splitting this last green flag run in half, should we not see a caution, we're going to see these guys on pit road somewhere within the next 10 to 15 laps.
As you say that, Evan Loneker has already pulled down onto pit road and is getting service. So as the guy that was at first trying to stay out as long as possible is the first one to pit road now. So he seems to be someone that really likes to play around with strategy, and I'm really excited to see how this turns out for him in the coming stages of this race.
And I believe he was around the 7th position when he came to pit road. So we'll see where he cycles around, and this may force the hands of a lot of drivers as well and have to draw them to pit road now, maybe earlier than they planned to, as looks like our top two, they continue to stay out. And boy, I don't know what it is, but Logan Helton, it seems like when he's out in front, I don't know if it's just the pressure he's feeling from Santini behind him, but every time we seem to look at him out in front, he is sliding off of turn 4.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to extract as much out of that car as he can, especially when he's fighting for the lead against his teammate. But yeah, right now he's setting the pace on the field, and it'll be interesting to see when these guys decide to pull off and pit, since Loneker decided to put his ace on the table, and we'll see what these guys are able to do besides that.
Yeah, definitely a gamble for Loneker with the fact that he is now a lap down in the 12th position, just moved up to 11th spot. So he needs this race to go green to the end. And as soon as we say that, the caution comes out. Looks like Jeffrey Meyer has had a problem over in turn 1.
Oh wow, the 38 car just seems to be totaled. I'll be surprised if it continues.
And that's 4th in the point standings as well. Meyer, so far this season in 9 starts, 6 top 10s, 3 of those inside of the top 5, has had a very consistent year, but he has struggled here tonight at Charlotte. We're going to go back and see what happened, but back to what I was saying, the gamble apparently did not pay off. Loneker, I think he would be able to take the wave around, because I'd be shocked if any of our race leaders on the lead lap stay out here under this caution, but not the way I think that Loneker was planning to get back on the lead lap.
Definitely not. It's a shame there too, because I was really excited to see his strategy play out, and now we will definitely see this race play out in a different way.
Hard hit passenger side for Jeffrey Meyer as he tried to keep the thing down on the apron, but it just shot straight back up the track, and hard impact for the RSS Racing entry there, who was already at the time running 2 laps down, and what's been a struggling day at Charlotte comes to a pretty hard licking end. Go on board and just see the impact that he had, as carried an awful lot of speed even after scrubbing it up some off there and hitting the wall going into turn 1. That impact, to your point, Mark, that car looks like it could very well be done, trailing black smoke there as he exited the scene on the apron of 1 and 2.
Yeah, it looks like he's on pit road, and I don't foresee him being off of pit road for any time in the distant future.
Battle off pit road, won by Logan Helton in the 8. David Santini will line up in second with Joshua Gordon, Jacob Shorba, and Chris Whitaker. That was the top 5 coming off of pit lane. Evan Longaker was able to take the wave around, so he's back on the lead lap, and I believe that Chris Hansen was the free pass car. So when we go back green, which will be with less than 50 laps to go, maybe around 40 laps remaining, we will have a total, I believe, actually, I was going to say of 11 cars in the lead lap. It looks like we may have a couple more drivers taking some wave arounds here, including the 12 of Roger Gregory, the 9 of Cody Jordan, the 15 of John Jones, and the 4 of Kevin Roy. And as soon as I say that, nope, they're actually coming to pit road this lap. So it will only be 11 drivers on the lead lap when we go back green. And this is an interesting call. The 1 of Jacob Shorba back on pit road.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if he maybe missed his pit stall on the first round of pit stops or what.
Yeah, that's not something that is ideal for the one group right now, especially considering how much speed they have shown today.
This is going to have him all the way back, I believe, in 9th position. When he lines up, he will restart ahead of Chris Hansen, who was the free pass car, and Evan Loneker, who was the wave around driver. So he will restart ahead of them. But another driver this is going to help out as well is going to be Tim Williams in the 19, who was the free pass car under the second caution. He was way back in the field because of having to start tail end of the field. Now he'll be restarting in 8th and up here with the race leaders. But we talk about Helton, Santini, Whitaker, drivers that are running well in the point standings. One driver that really has risen to the occasion points-wise here tonight has been Brandon Andrews. He fell a lap down early on. He got the free pass. He then also went a lap down in green flag pit stops, but was able to race his way the hard way back onto the lead lap, and right now finds himself in the 6th position. And this is a guy that was down there near the cut line, below the cut line, as far as the playoff standings. This is really, if you think about it, this is a season-making run for him right now.
Yeah, this is after early on in the race, I thought he kind of shot himself in the foot, staying out probably a lap too late than I would have foreseen somebody wanting to stay out and doing the 2-stop strategy there, but it looks like he's been able to rebound quite nicely and show some actual speed in that car.
As we double up and get ready to go back green, it's going to be Logan Helton, the race leader. We're going to go green with 40 laps to go as David Santini lines up to his outside. Joshua Gordon 3rd, Chris Whitaker 4th. 5th is going to be Tom Drayling, Brandon Andrews in 6th. 7th will be Barry Stevens, Tim Andrews in 8th. Jacob Shorba 9th, Chris Hansen 10th, and Evan Longaker is going to be the completion of your lead lap cars in 11th. Right now, drivers that will be battling for that free pass position, should we get a caution here in these final 40 laps, would be Cody Jordan in 12th, John Jones 13th, Kevin Roy 14th, and Roger Gregory in 15th. 3 laps down, still continuing on, Carson Bowers in 16th. 17th is Greg Newsom. He is 4 laps down, and 5 laps down, last car still running, is Jeffrey Meyer. However, he is still sitting on pit road, has not returned to the track as of yet, and to your point, Mark, we probably won't see him on track here before the conclusion of this race. But here we go, Logan Helton. Let's see if he can get himself a good restart and get ahead of Santini here as he's up through the gears and has about a car length and a half, 2 car lengths at the start-finish line with 40 to go.
Yeah, that was a good restart by a lot of those guys up front, especially Whitaker. It looks like he's actually gathering it up here on the exit of 2. Lost a few spots there as he made a mistake. Kind of jinxed him. But now we see Joshua Gordon really able to put it to these 2 leaders now. He finally has his shot to show his speed as he's right on the bumper of Santini.
This is exactly what Helton wants to see as well. He wants to see them battle for second place to allow him to pull away, because we know in terms of long-run speed, Santini seems to be the stronger of the 2 BJ McLeod Motorsports entries. So if he can have the 93 slow up the 99 a little bit, that might be the difference maker between trying to hold off Santini and not. But actually, it's almost looking like the 99 and the 93 are working together, drafting up to race leader Helton.
Yeah, Joshua Gordon has some pretty good pace he's showing right now in that 93 machine. He is just all over the bumper of the 99 right now, and they have, like you said, closed that gap tremendously to the A's. He's just driving it so hard into the corners. It's crazy that he's just staying with the same line as him and not trying a little bit harder to get around him.
I think these drivers are realizing that if we do manage to go green to the end, it will be 40 laps they'll have run on the tires. They want to pick up as many positions on these fresh tires as possible, as Gordon will go to the inside of David Santini. You know, we talked about Santini having those 3 wins to fall back on. Well, what about somebody like Tom Drayling, who's filling in tonight for Tyler White? I mean, he's really got nothing to lose. He can go aggressively and try and pick up the W, as the caution is out again. Barry Stevens in the 78 sitting sideways there in turn 2. Everyone avoids him, but the yellow comes out yet again, and will give more drivers some choices to have to make here on whether to come to pit road yet again, even though we were on a 6-lap run, or do they stay out on 6-lap old tires?
Yeah, that was really shaping up to be an interesting result there, as Gordon was really starting to hook his stuff up and challenge Helton for the lead. But now we'll see if he's able to really launch on this restart or not, or if they decide to pit or don't pit.
Barry Stevens may have had a little bit of help there from the one of Jacob Shorba. Shorba was trying to fight his way back up through the field after having to make a second pit stop, or maybe it was his first pit stop, but second attempt at it there under the last caution. Got into the left rear of the 78, spun him around, but Barry Stevens did a heck of a job getting on the brakes, not hitting the wall, and also not drifting back down into traffic. Look here from the rear of the 78 car, back to the one of Shorba. Corner, it's really hard to tell whether the one may have drifted up or the 78 came down. You see that an awful lot at these speedways, where 2 drivers just want the same amount of real estate, and unfortunately you see that kind of contact, but neither car got torn up, so both will be able to continue. Undoubtedly the 78 will be coming to pit road for fresh tires, as he currently is on pit road. And I believe the free pass machine is going to be the 9 of Cody Jordan. So what an up and down day it has been for the driver out of Junior Motorsports, who brought out the first caution of the day. He fell a lap down, and now he's back on the lead lap with a chance of maybe finishing this race out in the top 10.
Yeah, good recovery for him for sure.
And everyone was back on pit road yet again. They'd only been out there for 6 laps on these tires, Mark. It's really surprising me that they feel that 6 laps old tires, that's a deficit against fresh tires.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely something I wouldn't really be too worried about right now. Possibly towards, if we were coming to like a restart under 10 to go, possibly, I would definitely consider coming for tires if people are coming for tires. But right now, I just kind of see it as a little bit of just making sure your tires are the freshest they are, since we keep getting cautions.
Like, we are going to have some drivers take the wave around this time, including Roger Gregory, John Jones, and Kevin Roy. This will put all of them back on the lead lap. Logan Helton's got to make a choice now here of which lane he wants to restart in, because whichever driver is going to be behind him have both proved they are really good here and have something for the 8 and the 99. If he chooses low, that would give the advantage on the restart to the 93 of Joshua Gordon, who we saw pounding Santini for second just before that caution came out. If he chooses the top side, that gives the advantage to the 20 of Tom Drayling, who was also there making it a 4-man fight for the race lead. So he's got a little bit of a difficult choice to make of which car he really wants to give an opportunity to get to his back bumper and possibly battling for the lead, maybe even the win here tonight at Charlotte.
Yeah, personally, if I was him, I would definitely try to not give the 93 any leeway. I would rather take my chances with Tom Drayling than I would with the 93, just seeing that raw speed he was able to have on that initial launch. So it's going to be interesting to see which line he picks and how this restart pans out for them.
Well, I think when we hit the line, it will be 1 to green, so we'll see what choice the Junior Motorsports entry is going to make here. I'm sorry, not the Junior Motorsports entry, the BJ McLeod Motorsports entry, rather. What choice he is going to make, whether he'll choose the top or the bottom. Of course, he gets the choice of when he wants to accelerate, so he gets that advantage anyway. It's just a matter of whether he wants to maybe help his teammate in the 99 there of Santini, help him hold on to second place, and maybe have him maybe block for him and play defense for him to maybe help Helton get his first victory of the season here tonight at Charlotte. As I believe the lights are out, there go the wave around machines, and it's like Helton's made his choice. He's going to take the bottom, so that is going to be some pretty good news for Joshua Gordon here in this start if he can time it right.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what he's got on this restart. As he was starting to play out to possibly make a drive to the lead there before we were unfortunately graced with a caution. So now it's going to be interesting to see if he's going to be able to have the same fire off speed as he did as the last restart or not.
Before we had our first caution of the day at the midway point, we were looking like we were destined to have maybe as few as 7 cars finish on the lead lap. Now with 3 cautions afterwards, we are going to have 15 drivers back on the lead lap here, nearing 30 laps to go here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Currently, we have 3 cars that are multiple laps down in Carson Bowers, Greg Newsom, and Jeffrey Meyer. Both Bowers and Newsom would need to have 4 more cautions come out in these final 30 laps to get back on the lead lap. So right now, I think we've got what we've got in terms of drivers that have a shot of remaining on the lead lap, 15 in total, as Logan Helton's going to bring us down here. We're going to have a total of 22 laps remaining as he'll go back up through the gears. It looks like it will be the 99 of Santini who will clear into second. That couldn't have worked out any better, I think, for those 2 BJ McLeod teammates.
Yeah, definitely not nearly as much fire off for the 93 as I thought we were going to see, but he seems to still be able to put Tom and the 2-car of Whitaker at bay on the restart.
That'll make that battle for the 4th position as Whitaker pushes way up the track there in the entry to 3. Almost got into Drayling as Drayling clears for 4th, move Whitaker back to 5th. Got a battle here for 6th. Evan Longaker to the inside looking on Brandon Andrews.
Yeah, it looks like now Josh Gordon is able to start really putting pressure on these guys. It took him about a lap to get the speed that he showed last time, but here he is closing in, as well as Tom Drayling is following close behind him. It looks like not nearly as much pressure as last time, but it's shaping up to be a similar story.
David Santini sees them coming, and he was looking there down the D-shaped front straightaway, trying to see if he could make a move on teammate Helton for the top position. We're back where we were before that last caution came out. 4 drivers all within about 0.2 of a second of each other, battling for the lead at Charlotte.
Ooh, it looks like Gordon made a slight mistake there in the middle of 3 and 4 and lost a touch of ground to the 2 leaders. Like I've been saying earlier, I'm surprised we haven't seen anyone venture up even just a lane off the bottom to try to pass someone, because it's hard to, get around someone if you're running the exact same line as them, and we haven't really seen much of that from these leaders.
The weather's been very temperamental here today as well. We've got shade from turn 4 over to turn 1, and then sunlight from the middle of 1 and 2 over to turn 3. Now the sun's going to cover the entire track yet again. There's been little times where some cloud cover has come in, but then we go immediately back to direct sunlight as battle for 3rd is on. Tom Drayling easily makes the pass on Joshua Gordon for that spot. Now you got Toyota Supras 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, now we'll see what Tom Drayling is able to do with these guys as he's able to finally get around Joshua Gordon, and if he can even put pressure on these leaders.
Almost got the wall there off of turn 4. Had to quickly jerk it to the left to avoid that situation. He's only 2 car lengths off the back bumper of Santini. who looks like he's been trying to get around teammate Logan Helton, but just hasn't been able to do it. A lot of the passes that we've seen here today have been drivers getting a better corner exit and then making a move down the straightaways rather than, to your point, trying that second groove and trying to make a pass through the turns.
Well, as we see Logan get onto the apron a little bit too much there, but still able to hold on to the lead.
And now Santini going to look to the inside into one. Couldn't get there quite yet. Right up to the back bumper as Helton got the apron again there through 1 and 2. That's causing the 99 to have to check up. They're going to go side by side, though, going into turn 3. Let's see what Drayling will do.
It looks like the short entry that Santini's trying to be able to get as Logan is washing up from the apron is just not enough, because Logan's able to get that good arc into the corner and that drive off.
This brings Joshua Gordon back into the conversation as well with 25 laps to go. Drop a little bit further back and we've got a three-way battle going on for 6th place. That's where you've got Evan Loneker, right behind him Brandon Andrews, and then behind him Jacob Shorba, all trying to fight their way up there to Chris Whitaker for a spot inside the top 5. Then a little bit further back, you've got another group of cars where you've got 9th place Tim Williams, you've got the 10th position car, the 18 of Chris Hansen, and Barry Stevens, who had that spin just moments ago, currently in the 11th spot.
Yeah, this 4-car battle for the lead right now is starting to really shape up as we're getting to the closing stage of this race, closing in on 20 laps to go here.
We know these drivers are good to go on fuel. The question is, how much tires are they going to have underneath them when we get down to the very end of this race? As the two teammates continue to show the way, the battle now starting to loom for 3rd, as Tom Drayling losing a little bit of ground and falling back into the clutches of Joshua Gordon.
I think we're definitely going to see who is not wearing their stuff out nearly as much as we get to the closing stages of the race. That's possibly what Joshua Gordon might be banking on right now, as he's not nearly putting as much pressure on as he was on that short run we had before the last caution.
Might also be why Drayling's backed off just a little bit here. We're seeing Santini keep kind of peeking it up there to the outside line, because I think he's realizing unless he can get alongside the left rear quarter panel going into turn 1 or turn 3, he's gonna have to make a pass on the outside, because Helton's not gonna give up the bottom.
Yeah, no, definitely. Right now it seems the bottom is the place to be around this track, and everyone's just fighting for it. Like,
two separate battles going on right now, one for the race lead, the other for 3rd place, as now Gordon's going to make the pass back excuse me, on Tom Drayling. Drayling falls back to the 4th position. Now we'll see if Josh Gordon might have been saving his stuff there, and if he'll be able to reel back in the top 2. Chris Whitaker kind of riding by himself, currently holding down that 5th position, but at the same time, looking at lap times, he's getting reeled in slowly but surely by Evan Loneker, who's trying to crack up into the top 5 late.
yeah, Loneker was showing some pace there shortly during a middle stint of the race, but he was able to try to outsmart these guys on strategy. Has been really shooting himself in the foot, but now he might be able to get back up there and show his actual pace he's had all this race.
How long is Santini going to wait? He's got 3 wins. Helton's still looking for his first of the season. Looks like Santini may have the left rear quarter panel this time. Draws alongside going into turn 1. Now Helton made the pass for the lead in the early stages of this race on the outside. Looks like he's going to keep the lead on the outside line, as Santini got really loose on the exit of 2.
Yeah, like I've been saying, that outside line might be somewhere for these guys to go. It seems like it has some grip if we've seen Helton able to hold people off there on the high side twice now. I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing guys try to venture for some extra lines and possibly make a late race charge of these two.
Last time by, fastest car in the top 5 was the 93 of Joshua Gordon, who right now is only about 3.5, 4 car lengths behind David Santini. Might have a little bit of draft and a little bit of toe down the back straightaway to close up even more. And now the gap has actually opened as well between first and second, about a car length and a half of daylight from Helton back to Santini. But you kind of get the feeling Santini's not going to go away quietly.
Absolutely not. He's going to try to do as best as he can to try to win another race, because at the end of the day, all these guys are his competition. He's trying to pad his points going into the postseason.
16 laps to go when they hit the line this next time by. The field has gotten themselves pretty well spread out. Got some battles here and there, but a lot of the battles, as soon as they happen, they kind of dissipate. One back here going on for the 8th position, as looked like Jacob Shorba might have gotten the wall, just brushed it off of turn 4. He's trying to hold off the 19 of Tim Williams. And then further back, you've got these guys that are out there on old tires that all took the wave around into the last caution. John Jones, Roger Gregory, and Kevin Roy. They're all in a 3-man fight for 13th place. Back up to the front. It's now a 2-car fight between Helton and Santini. I'm not sure what's happened to Joshua Gordon and Tom Drayling. They looked like they had cars that could come up here and challenge these top 2, but now Gordon has dropped back almost a full second from these top 2. Drayling currently almost 2 seconds back.
Yeah, I mean, those guys seem to only really have some short run speed there, and it looks like it's starting to be not right up their alley, because they're starting to fall off the leaders here considerably.
Logan Helton qualified on the outside of the front row here today. Took the lead back on lap 2. He and teammate David Santini have been swapping it back and forth all race long, whether it be under green flag runs, whether it be under restarts. Helton, I think, has led the most laps out of the two of them. However, the question is, will he lead the most important one? He's had the less looking stable car, especially out of the corners, but in 10 starts, 8 top 10 finishes, so he has been consistent. That's why he's the points leader, but he doesn't want to just be the points leader. He wants to know he's going to go into Mid-Ohio next week, confirmed, locked into the playoffs.
Yeah, he's definitely one of the faster guys this season, as he is currently leading the points, but he has still been eluded of that win, and he's going to try everything he can to make that win happen tonight.
Hoping that these laps tick away as quickly as possible, as he has started to open up a little bit of a gap, nearing half a second back to David Santini. You got to wonder, that little slide that Santini had when trying to make a move out of turn 2, if that might have maybe taken away some of the rear grip that he had earlier on the long run, or is he just baiting the 8 car again? Because we've seen this before, where he lets it open up just a little bit and then he comes charging late. And if that 8 cannot hold the bottom of the racetrack in the closing stages of this race, then Santini may have Logan Helton right where he wants him. Looking back here at Logan Helton's last 2 finishes at D-shaped mile and a halves this season. A few weeks ago at Texas, he finished down in the 27th position, DNF'd in that race, but he had a second place run back at Atlanta. So we know that he knows what to do at these type of configured mile and a halves. The question is, though, can he execute and take home the checkered flag here, as it's 10 laps to go, and it's really these 2 BJ McLeod Motorsports cars to battle it out, unless we get ourselves a late race caution in these final 10 circuits.
Yeah, that'll be something to definitely keep an eye on. There is, if there is a caution, it's going to really throw a wrench in these guys' plans, especially when it comes to pitting. We might see some guys stay out on old tires and just gamble for it.
Talked about how every position matters, so there's a couple of battles here in these final 10 laps that are trying to resolve themselves. This is 8th place, Jacob Shorba trying to hold off Tim Williams, who currently is in 9th. A little bit further ahead of them, Chris Whitaker. The gap has started closing up between himself and Evan Lonecker for that 5th position. And even further back from this, you've got a battle that's going on between some some drivers that are currently on the tail end of the lead lap. Kevin Roy is trying to hold off Roger Gregory in the 12. That's a battle for the 13th position. And really, if you think about the day that Kevin Roy has had, he's been multiple laps down. He was able to take the waiver out under the last caution. If he finishes 13th place, that's actually not a bad performance for the early struggles he's had being a driver that comes into this race 9th in the point standings.
Yeah, he's just got to survive at this point, and it seems like that's what he's been able to do all race. As he's still out there, looks like he's having some issues there in the backstretch.
Been having connection issues the last 50 laps or so. Right now by himself, nobody around him.
We saw the 39 get a little loose, almost coming off the wall and taking out the 9 car, but they gathered it back up and are on their way.
It's been a struggling day for Gary Newsom as well, and Newsom came into this race 7 points behind the cut line, which currently was that final spot occupied by Tim Williams, who's up in the 9th position. So Newsom's going to have some work to do next week at Mid-Ohio to try and get himself back up into the playoff grid as this battle continues on for the 8th position. It's the closest battle on track right now between Shorba and Tim Williams, who we just mentioned. Tim Williams trying to pad himself into the playoff standings.
Yeah, definitely trying to do as much as you can to get into those playoffs.
Whoa, and we've got a little bit of a battle going on here. I don't know where this battle came from, but Evan Lonecker has reeled in Chris Whitaker, and whoa, Brandon Andrews
Hold on to
because
it.
he was loose off of 4. He then almost spun it into turn 1.
Wow. Yeah, these cars are definitely a handful out here. I think as the run went on, we were kind of forgetting that, but he really showed how loose these cars can get late into the run.
This all happening within 5 laps to go, now 4 laps to go, as Logan Helton has the biggest lead he's had all day. 1.7 seconds now back to David Santini. Almost 3 seconds back to Joshua Gordon, 4.5 back to Tom Drayling. Right now, Logan Helton wants to look up into that flag stand, and the only flag he wants to see in that flagman's hand is going to be the white flag. He does not want to see a caution right now.
Yeah, definitely not, especially if he's trying to make his first win of the year and make it into the playoffs. That would just be heartbreaking for him.
Santini right now really finds himself, Logan Helton currently finds himself 5th in the playoff standings behind former winners this season, Santini, Whitaker, Parkman, and Shorba. But he'd love to add his name to that list of drivers, knowing that he will be battling for a championship at the end of the regular season. 2 more circuits to go. He's going to have to deal with the lap machine here. Well, actually, it's a slower machine of John Jones, 15th place, last car on the lead lap. Jones going to move out of its way, it looks like, give up the spot, not going to interfere at all. And out of turn 4, it's going to be 1 more lap to go for Helton, who's enjoying a 2-second exactly lead with only 1.5 miles left to go at Charlotte.
Yeah, this race is going to be something that Logan Helton's going to be very proud of here for his championship efforts.
Logan Helton receiving the white flag presented by FSM Customs. And now just 2 corners away from receiving his first checkered flag of the season. He's had 6 finishes inside of the top 5. Make it 7, but tonight it's going to be a win as he takes the checkered flag here tonight at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Excellent run by those guys. They showed speed all day, and he was the dominant car, and he was able to capitalize on that, really. He had some pressure put on him by his teammate and some other cars in the field, but he didn't let him falter, and he ended up winning.
We saw him when he had the race lead, how he was getting loose, and we kind of attributed that to maybe him pushing it as hard as possible to stay ahead of teammate David Santini. On the other hand, though, with him being able to pull away as well as he did on this last restart, maybe he was holding his cards close to the chest, not really showing what he had there until it really mattered at the end.
Yeah, I'm surprised that we got a long run and he ended up besting his teammate out there. I would have figured that Santini would have been able to get up there and pull away from him, but I guess not.
Yeah, absolutely agree with what we saw in the first half of this race and in the early portions of the second half. I would definitely have agreed with you on the long run that I would have given the advantage to the 99. Also, a little surprising. We thought maybe getting up there on that last restart, Joshua Gordon and Tom Drayling would have something to say about it, but they also seemed to fade there towards the very end as Logan Helton came into this race the points leader, but with a goose egg in the win column. He is finally a winner here this season and locked into the playoffs. As we look at the full finishing results from this race, Evan Loneker going to bring it home in that fifth position. Would have loved to have seen what would have happened had we gone green for the entirety of this race. Just exactly where he and Tom Drayling would have come out in that scenario, but they still both get top 5 finishes. Chris Whitaker, second in points, is going to finish in sixth. Brandon Andrews, who had a couple of near moments there in the final few laps, still gets seventh. Tim Williams in eighth. Last week's winner, Jacob Shorba, in ninth. And Chris Hansen doing a nice job as well as a fill-in driver this evening, bringing it home in the 10th position. 11th was Barry Stevens after his late spin. Cody Jordan, who also brought out the first caution, finishes 12th. Roger Gregory and Kevin Roy, your top 14 that finished on the lead lap. We saw John Jones go a lap down there in the closing stages of this race on the last lap. He'll finish in 15th place. And the last drivers to finish the race out in 16th and 17th were Carson Bowers and Greg Newsom. The rest of these drivers were all involved in incidents here or in unscheduled pit stops in the first half of this race, all DNFing out of the event. Jeffrey Meyer, Craig Hawkins, Dalton Williamson, as well as Vincent Arthur and James Love.
Yeah, that was an exciting race.
It was indeed, as Logan Helton does a Polish victory lap here for the fans. We're going to get word here with some of our top 3 finishers in just a moment, including Logan Helton down live on Victory Lane. And let's see if we can get a word here with third place finisher Joshua Gordon in the 93. And I believe we do have him. Joshua Gordon brings it home P3 here tonight in that RSS Racing entry. And Joshua, Mark and I, we were kind of speculating. Looked like you had a really good car up there that could compete with the top 2, but was it just a good short run car? And when the long run came, you lost touch with them? Or was there something else that went on?
I think they had the long run car, and my car was just a little bit better on the short run, but I just couldn't hang with them. But all in all, it was a great race. I guess I just didn't have enough for those Toyotas up there.
Saw you come to pit road on one of those cautions after you guys had only run 6 laps, and you lost a little bit of track position, but you charged back up to where you were before you'd made that pit stop. Was there a huge difference between just a minute number of laps on old tires as opposed to fresh tires?
I think so. I was surprised when there was only a few of us that went down there because I felt like tires were huge in this race. It was like an ice rink.
See if Mark's got any questions for you.
I noticed on a lot of restarts you had pretty good ones, but it was really that lap after the restart where you started to put like some speed on those guys, especially on that short 6 lap run. Do you think if you would have been able to get ahead of those 2 guys in the Toyotas up there, would you have been able to hold them off potentially?
Yeah, it's funny. I was getting ready. I passed. I think it was the 99 car, and I was starting to get on the leader, and then the caution came out, and I was just. It makes you wonder if I would have passed him, could I have held off and maybe won this thing? I guess I would never know.
You still bring it home with a solid outing of third place here today. You came in 20th in the points. This is definitely going to move you up in the standings, especially getting these good finishes in the early portion of the season. But for now, we're going to let you do some shout-outs, Josh.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Rapid Fire Pizza, Jones Racing Setups, Shorbers Racing Graphics, FSM Customs, and Abiding Love Memorial Urns. Without them, we don't have this. And anybody who's listening on the broadcast, thank you for listening.
That's Joshua Gordon. He brings it home P3 here tonight at Charlotte. Congrats on a great run.
Thank you.
And we'll see if we can bring in three-time winner, but tonight's runner-up, David Santini in the 99. And we've got him now. And David, I mean, a great run for you here tonight. Second place. We saw you and your teammate really flip-flopping that race lead back and forth. We saw him pull away from you there at the very end. Was that slide in turn two, do you think, the difference maker in letting him get away? Because we saw you before have a gap and reel him back in on long green flag runs.
Yeah, it's just really tough when you're racing one of your teammates, especially at the end of a race. I mean, the last thing you want to do is do something stupid and, screw somebody's day up or both your day up. So I was racing him a little hard towards the end there, and then I think I just used it up too much, kind of trying to be conservative and aggressive at the same time. And then I started getting real loose, and he pulled away from me, and that was it.
We saw at the very beginning of the race when the two of you were lined up side by side on the front row, how he was able to get the advantage on you on that second group, the outside line, to take the early lead. And then when you tried making a move on him late in the race on that outside group, he was able to hold you off. Was there any time you thought about maybe moving up to that outside line to try and make a pass on him for the win?
Not really. The way my setup was, it was super loose to start, and it kind of came in and then got loose again. So when I was down there on the bottom, like I said, the last thing you want to do is get up into somebody, especially your teammate. So I was just being a little conservative there at the beginning, knowing tire wear was going to be a factor for sure. Who was going to be able to be the easiest on the tires, take care of them, and then, make moves. So kind of a little bit of everything.
See if Mark's got any questions for you here.
I noticed that I figured if that race would have ended up with the long run like it did, that you would have ended up on top of your teammate. Is it just a fact that he was able to get that advantage over you and you just didn't have enough for him? Or what happened there on that last run to you?
Well, the difference between the beginning of the race and the end of the race was at the beginning, I really didn't care what happened or how it played out necessarily. I just wanted to conserve my tires as best as possible and see what would happen.
Okay.
And it worked out. So, I mean, we kind of, made a pretty big gap even to third place at that point. At the end of the race, though, everyone was being super aggressive. I forget who it was in the 93. He even passed me at one point towards the end there. And then, they were just diving in really deep. So I was using my tires up a little bit more than I wanted to as well. So, like I said, kind of all those things just played into it. Little bit more aggression there towards the end with everybody, and trying to make moves because
That's another thing I would like to ask. Sorry if I cut you off there a
No,
little,
that's all
but I didn't notice anyone even attempting to run that much higher off the bottom. Like I would have figured someone would have tried to run up top. Was there just not enough grip up there? Was it just how was it up there?
If you got up there, it just got super tight, and the car just would not turn. If you weren't, I mean, there's a bump in one, and there's a bump in three, and if you don't avoid it perfectly and get down to the bottom, it's like you just can't get to the bottom. It just washes you up the track, and then you're stuck up there, and I mean, you get huge runs on the bottom then.
Well,
All
David, obviously when we come to a track like this, and especially when we had that long green flag run the first half, we were kind of thinking, is this going to be one of those fuel strategy, pit strategy type races? And it would have been interesting to see how it played out. Looked like you were one of those drivers that was planning on the 3-stop strategy. Some other guys were out there planning on 2 stops, but we're going next week to the first road course of the season at Mid-Ohio, another track where we're probably going to see a lot of pit strategy come into play. With having 3 wins in the bank, does it make a little bit easier for you to be able to maybe think outside the box in terms of strategy at these type of tracks?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you can try all kinds of different things. I've been trying different stuff with my setups, just to see what would happen. Because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter if I come in last place. I already have wins. So absolutely, it comes into play for sure.
With those 3 wins, you continue the momentum on here tonight with a great run of second place. You got to lead quite a bit of this race as well. Very strong performance for you, and we're going to let you do some shout-outs now.
Yeah, absolutely. No, thanks to you guys for coming on and doing these broadcasts now. Rapid Fire Pizza, Jones Racing Setup, Shorba Racing Graphics, FSM Customs, and Abiding Love Memorial Urns, as well as Bearing Real Estate for being on the car, and then my teammates Logan and Barry, and congrats to Logan on the win.
That's David Santini, 3-time winner, heads into Mid-Ohio, a runner-up finisher here tonight at Charlotte. Congrats on a great run.
Thanks, guys.
Mm-hmm.
And let's get his teammate, tonight's race winner, down in victory lane. Over the number 8, Logan Helton. And Logan, I mean, you came into this race the points leader. You've been consistent all season long. The one thing so far that's really been eluding you is that victory. Was that the driving force that allowed you to pull away from your teammate there on that final restart?
Yeah, just I knew that I didn't need a win to get into the chase, but if I didn't get a win before the chase, it'd kind of like stick with me the rest of the season. So I knew that I really wanted this win, especially at Charlotte, one of my favorite tracks to race at, especially on the Memorial Day with my grandpa's name on the side of the car. But yeah, just really glad I finally got this first win.
I want to go back to the very first few laps of this race where you started on the outside of the front row and you made that power move around the outside to take the race lead. Did it surprise you that not many drivers decided to take notice of that and try seeing if the outside line would work in their side-by-side battles?
Kind of, because I knew that if you get up beside them like about equal before the corner, you can be able to stick it and kind of not pinch them, but just keep them down there so you get the better run off the corner. But yeah, I was expecting people to go more for the inside passes just due to the fact that it's a lot safer and there's not much of a risk to lose more than gain.
If Mark's got any questions for you here, Logan.
No, I was just wondering, what how was the chemistry between you and your teammate out there? It seemed that you guys were trading the lead back and forth pretty regularly, and the restarts seemed to be pretty much on point every single time. Like, did you guys have a strategy going into it, or were you just trying to do what you could to end up on top?
Um, Obviously, towards the end, the goal for everyone, no matter if they're teammates, is to get up front and stay up front. But with me and David, we've been working together like this the whole season. And if one of us feel like we can make it in front of the other and keep a good pace, we'll just let the other one by because we don't want to do anything stupid to ruin our chances at a good 1-2 or a good top 5 finish for us. So yeah, we were working together good. Obviously, towards the end there, it was kind of just us versus each other. So we weren't going to in any way script that. So we just we race each other, but we don't race each other stupid to where we cause a wreck between us and ruin a good day.
Yeah, definitely. Did you feel like there was anyone besides your teammate that was going to put on the pressure there towards the end, like the 93 charging and possibly the 7 car?
At the beginning of the race, I thought we would have to be racing a couple of cars, but as the race went on, I noticed that even on old tires where I thought I was really slow, we were actually pulling away. Both of us were pulling away. So I knew that on the long run, it was going to be between me and him. It was just a matter of who used their tires the most. And towards the end there, I guess he was kind of using his tires more, trying to catch up to me. Or I'm not completely sure. I'm sure dirty air probably has something to do with it. But yeah, it was just definitely strategy towards the end.
You know, Logan, we've got Mid-Ohio, the first road course stop of the season, coming up next week. And I know that obviously, you know, if you hadn't won this race and you still had the points lead, that would kind of change up this question maybe a little bit. But let's say that you didn't have this victory here tonight and you're heading into the first road course race. You probably have a strategy there. But now having this victory, does the strategy stay the same going into a road course race, or does it change up your mentality of how you're going to approach it?
I'm sure the win right now, it's going to make me feel different, but when I get into the track next week, it's going to stay the same as the whole season. Like, all you want to do is stay up front and get another win. And I personally really like road courses, especially with these heavy rear wheel powered cars, that it's some of my favorite stuff to do. So I'm not sure if I'll be the fastest, um but now that I do have this win, I know you said if put me in the mindset if I didn't, but now that I have this win, I know that it won't bother me too much if I'm not the fastest.
Well, BJ McLeod Motorsports gets its 4th win of the season. It's first here tonight, courtesy of Logan Helton. And Logan, we're now going to let you do some shout-outs.
First, thanks to my sponsors, RGC Media and East Bay Landscaping, the sponsors of the league, Rapid Fire Pizza, Jones Racing Setups, Shorbers Racing Graphics, FSM Customs, and Abiding Love Memorial Urns. It just thanks to everybody at the league that puts this on. You guys for picking up the broadcast tonight. My teammates at BJ McLeod Motorsports, Barry Stevenson, the 78, and David Centennial, the 99. Just all my friends and family that watched the race. And yeah.
That's Logan Helton. He brings it home P1 here tonight at Charlotte, his first of the season. Go enjoy it. Well deserved. And that's going to conclude our coverage here tonight from the Charlotte Motor Speedway here for the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series. And I guess we could say, Mark, kind of what we expected here with Charlotte, where the early portions of the race, everybody realizing they have to pace themselves, the long green flag run, but then when it starts getting down to crunch time, that's when we start to see drivers be a lot more aggressive. That's when we start to see the late race yellows.
Definitely a pretty textbook Charlotte race out there. I can't say I was surprised by too much. And all in all, it was just a pretty solid race. I enjoyed it from start to finish.
Absolutely. So we now know 5 drivers at least that are locked into the playoffs. 7 spots remain. And next week, maybe one of those road course ringers that may be able to become the 6th driver to lock themselves up a playoff spot, as the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series will be heading to the Mid-Ohio Sports Course. So that should be a bit of a wild card race, if you will, here in this season. But as things wind down here at Charlotte and Logan Helton continues to celebrate in Victory Lane, Mark, I want to thank you for joining me here this evening.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on tonight. This was a fun experience, and I hope to join you all for more broadcasts, especially here in this series, the Rapid Fire Pizza National Series, later in the future.
Absolutely. And thanks to everybody that tuned in tonight as well. Hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. For Mark Zabetka, I'm Seth Cole. Thanks for tuning in tonight to another broadcast brought to you courtesy of the Flatout Racing Network.